Today, we were talking about buyer system. So I think a lot of what we've been doing over the last few weeks has been lead gen related and specifically networking, right? And we've been talking a lot about lead gen this year through these sessions because that's been one of the most important things, if not the most important thing in real estate, right? Is you got to make sure you have enough leads in the hopper. Otherwise, all the other stuff that you're going to do downstream really doesn't make any sense, right? And so whenever I'm approached with a new agent, and they're like, Jared, I don't know how to do real estate. I kind of say, I don't care. Go learn how to sell. You've got 30 people at the brokerage who can help you do real estate, right? And so we can figure out the real estate once you sell, right? And now what we're going to start doing is now that we're getting some good feedback on getting into a good routine, we've got our morning kind of mindset, we've got our daily activities, we've got our afternoon debriefs, we're counting wins and gratitude, and we're doing this whole thing. At least the 3 people on this call right now, I can already tell that your business is shifting trajectory. We're getting more leads. We're having better conversations. Nate, we're freeing up a lot of time. And so now the question is, how do we capitalize on this, right? So when we get these leads coming through, we want to make sure that we don't screw it up, right? Because once you get a lead to sign with you, they've already made the commitment to work with you. And it's our job as sales professionals to then deliver on the business that we sold these people. And one of the best things that we did years ago, was Matt and I figured out checklists. And I know that like checklists aren't all that sexy and everyone has a checklist for everything, right? And I think the important thing here is that, it's not just building checklists. It's building checklists that you're actually going to use. So systems don't need to be software. You don't have to code and replit. You don't need to use AI. You don't need to use any of this stuff in order to build a system, right? A system is really just a routine that gets triggered whenever something happens, right? And as a system, if we're doing it the same thing over and over and over again, right? So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about buyers. Next week, we're going to talk about sellers. And the goal here is to come up with a buyer system. And what we're going to do is we're going to use AI. We're going to prompt it. We're going to help it. AI is going to help us put this all together. This is a little AI training for you. And the goal is that coming out of this presentation, out of this training, is that you then would be able to create these checklists for you and your business. And then, just be able to make whatever tweaks you want so you can deliver some really great service. So I guess, why are checklists? Noah, you're a Navy guy. Military loves checklists. Why are checklists important?
I mean, you basically triage, for lack of better terms, the most important things that need to get done before anything else. And that's what's helped me. So before I go to bed, usually I write a checklist. So for one, I'm not sitting straight up thinking about what I need to do tomorrow. I have everything organized and I know what I need to do, so I can just go down the list and check everything off.
Love that. That's called closing the loop. Hey, Sky. That's called closing the loop, right? Is that when you have a lot of stuff going on in your mind about stuff that you want to do the next day, writing a checklist or a to-do list helps your brain, what's called close the loop, i.e. you can turn it off because now you've written it down and now you have a process to get that done, right? One of the things that I think a lot of people don't do well is when they get a client, we get so excited. Oh my God, I got a client, right? Okay. Well, what do I do now? Well, this is what your checklist is for. And it's not just what do you do now, because you guys all know you're going to put them on a search. You know you're going to get a pre-approval letter. We know we're going to do the basics. The question is, what are you forgetting? So when do you ever go on an airplane and a pilot doesn't do their pre-flight checklist? Never. It's an FAA regulation. You have to do that, right? Now, do you think that pilots don't know to walk around the plane, check their tires, check their ailerons, check their controls, they do this thousands of times, right? They probably fly 3 or 4 times a day. So you do 1,000 flights a year. Why do we need a pre-flight checklist? It's because without the pre-flight checklist, you have so many things to remember as a pilot. And the odds of you missing one out of maybe 150 things goes up dramatically if we don't write it down and have a system for it. And what they realized in the pre-flight checklist era was before the pre-flight checklist, planes would start crashing because pilots would forget something. Oh, shoot, I forgot to check my right rudder. Oops, isn't that important? They checked the left one, but they forgot the right. And so developing the checklist allows them to ensure that all these mission critical items do not get lost. Okay. And not necessarily mission critical. When we're talking about mission critical in real estate, it's not just the basics. And we're going to talk about the basics, and that's got to be included in your checklist. And what I mean by basics with buyers, that's setting up on a search, that's making sure they get pre-qualified or pre-approved, right? Because we don't want to be showing homes to people that aren't qualified. Isn't that the best way to waste 6 months of our time showing homes that someone's never going to close, right? So we've got some of these basic things. And my guess is, Nate, you and Beth you do more than just the minimum, I'm guessing, right? Like if you have a buyer, it's not just set them on a checklist or set them up on a search. It's not just get their pre-approval letter and you say, okay, buyer, now let me know when you want to go see something. My guess is you have client service stuff or other things going on. Is that true?
Yep, that's very true. Yeah, so it really kind of starts with the conversation. We're still using the XP thing. I think KW have the same thing.
Yep.
It's a 3 or 4 page questionnaire. You do not hand it to them. You have a Zoom call with them, or you meet up with them in person. You have to figure out what they want. Yeah, you set them up on a search, but you first ask them. This is the age of Zillow. What I've noticed anytime that I send people searches, they look at some of this stuff out there. Unless I'm sending them individual properties, they're still going to send me Zillow properties. And so what I've noticed is is Zillow easier for you? I just need to know before I waste your time and mine. And I'm fine with that. If they see stuff on Zillow, I'm still going to be checking the MLS. But so that's first step, is ask them kind of what their steps are. As far as getting them in and out, we want to make sure they're pre-approved. We always send them directly to a lender if they're not. Immediately. I've got a checklist here somewhere and I cannot find it on my thing, so forgive me. But there's a whole series of things that we're going to do all the way down the line when we find a house. Some of the things that we do differently is I'll contact the seller's agent, let them know, hey, I'd like to go ahead and do a Matterport on this property. We got 45 days till closing. I want to keep my buyers interested in the property. From the Matterport, they can measure for their furniture, their curtains, all of that fun stuff. And so it just kind of keeps them engaged. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that Beth and I have that we like to do. So
great. So let's create, and what the goal here today is maybe use this checklist, maybe you don't. And I just want to show you how we can use AI as a tool where if we want to create these checklists and we want to start doing something, it's just very easy for us to output this kind of information right now. Right? Because at the end of the day, no system is going to be perfect the first time around. Did that first flight, did the Wright brothers' first flight take off? No. Right? Now we're hopefully not going to crash the plane for our first client. And I'm going to tell you that my first client, I had a whole list of things I wanted to do. And, like I wasn't organized enough about it. So I wasn't able to get it all done. So part of what I do here is once you create a checklist in a system, another key component of this is doing what's called an after action report, right? Or after something happens, where did the system break down? Where did the checklist break down? Now we're going to make a modification, right? That being said, you don't just want to not have a plan, because we all know a plan executed with passion, right? A bad plan executed with passion will outperform a perfect plan with no effort, right? And so what we're trying to do is just get to a point where we're passionate about what we're trying to do. We're passionate about our belief that our clients need all this stuff and we should be doing all this stuff. And after that, we're going to do an after action report and see where we need to potentially move the system around and move this checklist around. And I do apologize. Archie is being very vocal behind me right now. And I don't know if you guys can hear him or not, but I'll just love it. All right, we'll keep going. So here's what we're going to do. If you want to pull up your own ChatGPTs and follow along, you're welcome to. You guys might have different prompts or different information you want to do. I'm just going to show you how to get started. And so the first thing we're going to do is take our ChatGPT session and we're going to tell it what we're trying to do. So I'm a real estate broker and I'm looking to create a checklist system for all of my buyer clients so I can remember to do all the important things that need to be done for legal and transaction purposes, as well as incorporate standard follow-up touch points and other client service gifting related things. Before we get started and you output a suggestion, I'd like you to ask me a few questions. Can't type. About my process and my clients so that we can develop All right, let's see how this goes. So we're basically telling AI, we're real estate brokers, we're looking to create a checklist. But hey, don't go right away and tell me your checklist, because if you go and create a checklist right now, what's ChatGPT going to do? It's going to create a very general checklist that might have no relevance to what you as a real estate broker or you as a business owner are trying to do to facilitate better client engagement, right? So part of what we're trying to train our AI to do is ask us questions about our business and ask us questions about what we're trying to do. So that way, when we actually get some output from AI, it's much more relevant to us and our businesses versus like some general agent or some vision of what AI thinks an agent should be doing. Okay. You don't need to answer all these questions, by the way. I mean, 13 of them is a lot. So we're just going to go through and kind of pick some of the best ones that we want to do that we think we're going to add the most value with respect to our business. So, all right, what types of buyers do we work with? We work with all buyers and want the checklist to be general enough to deal with any buyer situation. I'm just trying to don't worry about the number of transactions. Let's say I work solo. Obviously, if you have a team or support, feel free to do that. All right, what other questions? Oh, I operate only in Colorado right now. Yes. Let's do 6. Yes, we should include. Yes, let's include some document checkpoints and specific things we need. What else? So, okay, cool. How often do we want to be communicating with our active clients? What do you guys think?
At least once a week.
Okay, I like that. So I want to be following up at least once a week. I need some ideas for different touch points, right? Because we don't always want to say the same thing. Like, hey, Bob, looks like nothing's on the market anymore. Call you next week, right? Like, we want to have something more to say than that. We're going to be calling them every week. Let's see. Post-closing follow-up. So I guess what do we want to do there? So post-closing, want to follow up at least 4 times a year. And I'd like a checklist item to add a client to my automated sequences in my CRM after closing. So we can also incorporate, right? A system calls another system. Isn't automation and Go High a system? So we'll just remind ourselves to trigger another system as a result of this stuff, right? Yeah, let's make sure the checklist includes adding to CRM, adding to campaigns, etc. Okay, so do we have a client gifting process? We do?
Yes.
Cool. We do as well. I'm just going to input mine. This is where you can input yours, right? Client gifting. We give a gift card, Starbucks, Home Depot, when an agency agreement is signed. We order dinner for the client Once they get through inspection and we give them a basket and or home warranty at closing for their good. Cool. Let's manage this system in Excel and go high level CRM. Checklist be per transaction, and let's do master template. All right, let's see what AI spits back here. Oh, needs more clarification. Ooh. Let's do 1. Stick with 20 to 30 steps to start. 2 no, 3 no, 4 yes, 5 yes. All right, we're just trying to get some output here now. Okay. Cool. Here's our first look. So I think this is pretty interesting, right? So it kind of knew to put this into different stages immediately. And doesn't that make sense for us, right? Like we're going to have different client interactions. So we kind of go through different stages. So there's kind of that pre-client setup. They're a lead. We are working on converting that person into an active client. Then we have the active client stage. We have the offer stage. We have the inspection stage, closing and post-closing. Does that feel like a good flow, at least of a transaction, different touch points we might want to incorporate so far? We good there? Yep.
Yeah. The only thing I might add, if you don't have it already on post-close, is asking for reviews.
It already knew to do that.
It did? Wow.
Yeah. So let's go through it step by step, right? And what we want to do is, so now we have a 20-point high-level checklist. Now, is this 20-point high-level checklist going to be enough, do we think, for an entire life cycle of a transaction? Probably not. So the reason why I like doing this high level first, and not high level like the CRM, but high level in terms of organization with the AI, is if you have it go through and output like a detailed 80-step transaction list right now, imagine how much harder it's going to be to give feedback on every single point that you want to give feedback on. So what I like to do is I like to start out with AI as like a mold ball, and you slowly start to like mold it into what you want it to be, right? And so what that's going to be is like big chunks. Think about like a sculptor, right? You're going to take big chunks out of it. We answered some big questions. We talked about Colorado, talked about some stages. Now, once we kind of have that mold and it's starting to take a little bit of shape, we're going to go through with a finer tooth chisel or comb or whatever sculptors use. And we're going to start chiseling out kind of those finer details. This is where we're going to start doing it, right? So yeah, here's my feedback. So let's talk about step number 1. Pre-client, so they're not yet a client. We're going to enter the lead in a go high. We're going to create a record on our pipeline. We all have pipelines, right, Noah? Okay, you can do this in opportunities. You can do it on a spreadsheet. You can do it wherever you want, but you should have a pipeline file, right, Jen? Okay, good. All right, so what are we going to do? We're going to basically send an intro email and buyer consultation invite. So like, are we going to always send that, or is it just more ensuring that we are putting this person on the appropriate follow-up sequence?
Putting the person in the appropriate follow-up sequence.
Okay, so after sending the initial email, let's add a point to add to a follow-up sequence or additional follow-up tasks, right? Cool. Prepare a buyer guide or a local information packet. Do you think we're there yet?
I wouldn't think so.
What might be a better general topic instead of like preparing a buyer guide?
Well, the one thing I've seen, especially cold calling on the Stone team, is a lot of past agents were doing buyer surveys. So I think before doing like a buyer guide or a local info packet, you have the buyer fill out a survey, and then you can provide them with a guide / info packet based off of the information from the survey.
So that's fine. I'll tell you that sometimes leads who are pre-clients or not yet signed, they don't want to fill out a survey.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm going to work with you, Noah. I was
Mhm.
looking at Nate talking to Noah, so I don't know if I want to work with you, Noah. Right? Why would I want to fill out your survey? So for me, surveys are helpful, in my opinion, once you are in that conversation about having business to be done,
Mhm.
i.e., hey, Noah, come show me or talk to me and my wife about why you're the best real estate agent in Colorado. Come to my kitchen table, sit down, let's talk about it. Okay, great. I want to show up prepared to our meeting, right? And so can you fill out the survey? So maybe what we need to do is have a checkpoint before the end of the pre-client setup, before they're an active buyer. We need to get their buyer preferences done, right? I do think this note here is more around preparing an item of value. So for me, what I'm telling AI to do is like, it's not about the buyer guide and it's not about a local information packet. This should be a touch point reminder to add value to your lead, not just calling to follow up and say, when are you ready? Right now?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I want to add one more point to the pre-client as a reminder to get my buyer survey filled out. Or they're active. Okay, cool. Let's move on to number 2. Active buyer client sign. So sending you execute the buyer agency agreement, that's a pretty good checkpoint to have, right? We also want to include the definitions of working relationships, as well as the buyer-only Blue Pebble disclosures to the agency reminder. Okay. Obviously, we have an active client. What are we going to do? We're going to reward ourselves. We're going to take that person from a nurture or a lead, and we're going to move them into the active client bucket, right? That's good. Let's remember to update our pipeline. Okay, cool. Here you can see that it incorporated our first step of the thing, our first step, right? So I said, thank you, send your Starbucks gift card. This is your reminder to gift or do your first gift, right? Schedule your weekly calls or check-ins. So maybe it's more than just scheduling. Let's add a recurring appointment. I'm just curious, if you were working with someone, trying to think about a real world example here. How many of us have regular calls with our accountants? Okay. How much better would it be for you guys? I'm just asking. If you knew every Monday at 4:00, your accountant was going to call. Right? Every Monday at 4. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what you were doing all week. All I know is that I've got a standing appointment on my calendar at 4:00 and my accountant's going to call. Some days we might talk for 5 minutes. Some days we might talk for half an hour. I don't know. I just know Monday at 4:00, I need to be available because I'm getting this phone call. Wouldn't that be helpful for you guys? So do we think that it would also then be helpful for our clients? And wouldn't it be helpful for us in our own time blocking? Instead of knowing that we have to call a client and know that we have to get to this, what if we just scheduled the appointment and invited our clients to a recurring Google meeting where we knew from, let's say, Tuesday afternoon from 4 to 6 or whatever it was going to be, you guys were in client catch-ups. And then you had time blocked out the hour before. I'm going to prepare for my client checkups. How much easier is that now, Noah? You don't need to remember any of this stuff. it's time blocked out in your calendar, and you have now a recurring invite with all of your active clients. And then don't you think it shows professionalism if, let's say, you have absolutely nothing to talk about and you send them a text at, like, let's say noon, like, hey, Bob and Tracy, I know we've got our scheduled time at 4:00. I don't have anything to talk about right now. Something was slow. We talk on Sunday, like whatever. There's been no update. Do you guys still want to have the call? Oh, no, Jared, we're good. You talked to us on Sunday. We're all caught up. Fine. Minor, like, dude, this is low bar. What real estate agent does that? Everyone says they do, and I'll tell you that no one actually does. If you ask 100 real estate agents, 90 of them will say, I talk to my clients every week. If you actually do it, it's probably more like 10%. Okay? So just put it in your calendars. What's up?
I do it without fail. I literally tell my clients, if you don't hear from me on Monday with a report, fire me. I tell them that straight up.
So that's great, and Nate. So when you get a new client, what is your process for making sure that is, like, there's always a time? Is it just like, I'll call you when I get to you? Is that a standing appointment? Like, how do you run that?
I tell them, you will hear from me every single Monday. I try to get my reports out between 2 and 7 p.m. I don't give them a definitive time that I'll call, but I do give them an email report that I generate through ChatGPT. I follow up with a text response. Hey, just wanted to make sure you guys received that. Do you have any questions? Or, hey, do you want to talk about it? I'll be here tomorrow, X amount of time, whatever. That,
Great.
Yep, every Monday.
Call, email, report, whatever it is. I just think it's like, let's put that in our calendars. Because, like, if they have in their calendars and then you call them and you, like, talk about a way to, and this isn't just for, like, getting them the information. This is also how you earn your referrals in the future. Right? Because if you don't miss a phone call for 6 months while you're working with a client, you are going to get referred by them. Because then you did what you said, and that's valuable. Right? So I just think, like, whatever it is, whether it's calls, reports, emails, texts, add the follow-up to your checklist. Right? And then also, I think this is a great reminder. Send your list of inspectors and all these people. We also need to add something. We also, at the beginning of step 2, also want to make sure we get pre-approval letter. And if not, intro to lender, because we don't want to get too far down the road without forgetting about this. Right? So let's add to our checklist. All right, cool. Move down to number 3. Submit an offer. Confirm your acceptance time. Great. Get your earnest money receipt. Upload your contract. Tag under contract. Move them over. Right? Schedule your inspection. So what about scheduling inspection? You're scheduling all the inspections. Right? Home, roof, sewer line. What else do we need to do?
Radon, if it has a basement.
Yep. Radon, maybe structural. So let's make sure we have a checklist for all of our inspections.
Maybe electrical if it's an older home in the 70s.
Yeah, lead and asbestos.
All inspections, yeah.
Cool. After resolution signed, order dinner. Schedule the appraisal. Right? Title and HOA docs. Should probably be higher than the last thing we do there. But that's okay. We can move it up. Right? All right, closing prep. Verify the closing disclosure. Cool. You know what a closing disclosure is, guys? CD.
Mm-hmm.
CDs are what lenders use. So CDs are for lenders, right? That's what they use to balance the title companies and stuff like that. We actually want to verify settlement statements. Confirm utility transfers. By the way, I always forget that. always, because I don't use a checklist anymore because I'm not in production. I'll take it, right? Whenever I was in production, I forgot this all the time. And it was always annoying for me because it would be after closing and I get a call 2 hours later. Hey, Jared, the power's out. What do I do? Or, hey, Jared, who's my cable provider? How do I do this? I don't know. Let me figure it out. So like add a reminder in your checklist to make sure all that stuff's done before closing. Wouldn't that save you a phone call? Would that maybe save you some hassle when you moved on, you've cashed a check and you're not planning on working on this deal anymore? For sure. You don't want to forget that. All right. Final walkthrough, closing gap, basket, move the close, confirm the recording, and keys delivered. Is there anything else we want to talk about with closing right there? No? Okay. Add your past client campaign in GHL. So that means you need to do it, right? You just tag them as past client, you add them to the automation, whatever that's your thing. Maybe your thank you review request email is part of that automation. So every past client you get, the first email that goes out is a thank you and review request email that you've drafted. It's entirely possible that you do that. And then there's a 1 month, 3 month, 12 month, 6 month. We should add, call it long-term after the last step. All right, so let's give it this little chiseling. We're getting more specific, right? Ooh, now we're getting more detailed. All right, so we're going to add our lead to Go High. We're going to send out introduction emails, schedule the consultation. We're going to introduce ourselves. Maybe that's step 1 of our 8x8. We're going to add a follow-up sequence. So we're going to follow up with these leads, right? We're going to prepare some initial item of value because when we follow up, we need to have some items of value. Maybe it is a guide. Maybe it's a current market update. Maybe it's a lender. Either way, though, we want to be following up with things and not when are you ready to go, right? We're going to want to send our buyer survey, right? When we schedule the consultation. So that's all good, right? And then we're going to enter our notes into the CRM. Does anything feel bad about this? Okay, cool. Jared, I already know this. All right, great. Then you just check it off as you go. It's really easy. It's unmess-upable. Okay, let's go to the active buyer. Get your pre-approval letter. That should be number 1 with your active buyers. Because if you're not getting that pre-approval letter first, they're not active. Unless they're all cash. Right? I will never work with a buyer who's not pre-approved. I might ask Noah to go do something for me for $50, but like I've limited my risk there to $50 a showing because I know my time is more valuable than $50 a showing. So I'm not considering these people as fully active until I get that pre-approval letter. And you probably don't want to do that until, and this is why I think it's important to do this first before you execute a buyer agency. Because in theory, what happens if you sign a buyer agency and then a week later your client says, "Oh, I'm not pre-approved"? Aren't you their agent?
Longer.
Aren't you still their agent? Right? I don't want that responsibility if I'm not working with you. Because as soon as they hire you, what do they think they're going to have? They have free reign to your time. Oh, Jared, I'm working on that pre-approval. Why don't we go check out this house this weekend? Because I really want to go see it.
Why wouldn't we just put the pre-approval in step 1 at the very end? And that way, because if they don't end up getting pre-approved, they technically don't ever move to section 2 or the second option.
Yeah, I'm good either way. I would argue sometimes you're not getting a pre-approval letter until you meet with them. Right? So like, whether it's the first one of step 2 or the last one of step 1, I think as long as that's the thing that kind of is the gating between before you go on to active, it's just going to remind you to get it, you know? So Nate, you can play around, man. I'll put this online. I'll do it. You can make a copy if you want. You can mess around with this all you want. Totally cool. You execute your agreements. update your CRM, you send your client gift, you add them to a recurring appointment, you give them their vendor list, and you make sure you set them up on a search. Isn't that a great little 5 or 6 step thing whenever you get a new active client?
Mhm.
Now, Noah, when you get this active client, imagine how much easier it's going to be when you go to bed that night. You can literally just party because you know the next day, what are you going to do? You're just going to pull up your checklist,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
Back at KW, they used to tell us that to print out these checklists, and they literally had those like big folders with the brads on them. It's like a 3-ring folder and it's huge and, kind of a big folder. We used to make paper copies of every single one of our files, and we used to put a paper copy of this checklist on top. And we literally had our transaction manager go through and check every single thing off. So if I was in the office, I could go in, pull a file, and know exactly what had gotten done. Right? There are better systems now than we had in 2017, which is kind of crazy to think about being that far away. But we have better systems now. So whether it's Monday.com, Go High Level, however you want to automate it, this is very much like a CRM. You just have to use it. It doesn't matter what checklist you have because you're going to make it better every single time you go through it. You just have to get in the habit of using it. All right, cool. Let's go through the contracts. Submit the offer. Great. Then we collect our earnest money. We upload the contract to Brokerman. We tag them under contract. We get our title docs. We schedule our inspections. Isn't that how you should do it with every single under contract buyer that you get?
Absolutely.
And then aren't you done until the inspection? For the most part, right? You got your weekly catch-ups anyway, but 1 through 6, that's it. Once you put them under contract, you're waiting at that point, right? You got to schedule after you do the resolution, schedule the appraisal, confirm with the lender, and then you're done. What else do we know? Style points notwithstanding, we're not talking about style points. What else do we need to do from a real estate broker perspective at this stage that we did not talk about in our checklist?
Possibly communicate with lending a little bit more somewhere in there.
Okay, so tell me more about that, Nate. For step 3.
Step 3, I'm communicating with my buyers, letting them know, hey, if the lender says jump, you jump. And then you're calling the lender saying, hey, does my buyer need to jump? And so you're doing that several times in that process. You do it before inspection, after inspection, and of course, right before closing.
Right. So I'm going to say after step 3, after confirming acceptance, we want to send the offer to the lender. Right. We also want to create a weekly task once we go under contract to talk to the lender. Because if they're not working with Blue Pebble, you don't know if you're going to talk to them. If you're working with Jets or Kayla, you know you're going to get phone calls all the time because if they don't, tell me about it. I'm going to yell at them. Right. But like sometimes lenders aren't always the most forthcoming, follow-upable people. So maybe we schedule a meeting with the lender. Hey, John, my name's Nate. I'm with Blue Pebble. We're working on Trish and John together. Hey, I just want to let you know Tuesday afternoons are really good for me because I talk to my clients at Tuesday at 5. So how about I give you a call Tuesday at 2 every single week? And you just let me know what's going on with the file. Is that cool? Sweet. Let's go. Giddy up. Right. By the way, what if that gets back to your client? What if they had the lender before you? Hey, John and Trish, I got to tell you, I don't know where you found this real estate broker, Jen Wick. She is amazing. Like, she's the only real estate broker I've ever had who scheduled weekly phone calls with me to make sure that everything is going on. And that way she's not calling me in a fire drill every single time she calls. That reflects pretty good on you. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. If it does, I think that puts you far and away ahead of everybody else, right? All right, cool. So we're going to add sending the offer. We're going to create a weekly checklist with the lender. Let's talk about closing. So let's move on. So now we verify our settlement statements, confirm the utility transfer, schedule the walkthrough, ordering our closing gift. We move our client to closing, and we go to closing. What else do we need to do for the closing platform?
Pick up a check. Oh, your CDA. There's not a CDA in there.
Ah, yeah.
I was gonna say as well for step 3, and this is based off of my last experiences, I would put it like um a daily checklist of checking your e-calendar for deadlines, just in case like they still need to get insurance, making sure their um, new loan obligation, if there's any issues with that, double checking when that is in case something pops up, so that you're not broadsided by anything.
So
I like that, Lo. Can I ask a quick side note, Jared? How do you do that? So what I typically do for buyers and sellers is I'll look at my dates, and depending on what it is, but it's usually 4 or 5 days before that deadline is up. I put that in my calendar to remind myself, hey, make sure. Is there a better way of doing that? Because it just gunks up my calendar.
I'm working on that for us because I agree with you. It's a pain in the butt. So that's part of what I want to do with Pearson when I get that up and running. Let's just come up with a better transaction management system for you guys. That being said, Noah, what I would suggest is as best practice is not do it every day. You do it once a week. And you should do it on a Friday or a Monday, ideally Friday. So that way you know what's going on ahead of the week, because the best time to negotiate real estate is over the weekend. You don't want to, in my opinion, you don't want to check every day because you don't want to get in the habit of being like, oh, that's a tomorrow problem. These deadlines all feed in with each other, and they're always conversations sometimes. We all know that we can't figure out dates changes automatically all the time. So for me, I want to know all my deadlines coming up a week in advance. So for me, I would say, okay, schedule a time with your transaction coordinator. Let's review all of our active files right now and all of the upcoming deadlines we have over the next week, so you and I are on the same page about what needs to happen, right? If you don't have a transaction coordinator, do it yourself. Friday morning, pull up your files, look at the dates and deadlines that you have going on for the next week, and then determine if you need to take any action. And no, Nate, CCM has a calendar in it. I think it's awful. I haven't found a really great solution to extract transaction dates and deadlines and then get them onto a calendar or reminder. That's something I'm working on with Pearson right now. We're a couple months away from that, but I am working on that for you.
So cool. Yeah, I mean, the system that I have and what you've probably used forever, I mean, it works. It's just cumbersome. It's time consuming.
And it doesn't automate anything for you. It doesn't send you any reminders. It's just a date in the calendar that doesn't make any sense. So like, yeah, I think this is one of those more manual processes. I've not found a good way around it outside of better communication with your transaction coordinator. And in the absence of a transaction coordinator, that's on you to manage your dates and deadlines. So I would just do it a week in advance. You can take a weekend and figure almost anything out. Like, I think that's the nice thing about real estate is over a weekend, take 2 or 3 days. There's no pressure. There's no timing. Nothing needs to get signed by midnight if it's a Saturday, right? Because all contracts go to that Monday anyway, right? So like for me, I like having renegotiations over weekends because time is what adds stress, and stress is what leads to bad decisions. So the less time you give yourself, the more stress you're going to add, and the more stress you add, the more likelihood of a bad outcome, right? Whereas if you're like, hey, loan availability is coming up next Friday, and based on my phone call with the lender, we're fucked. I would rather have that conversation a week in advance than a day before that. And I have a feeling the listing agent's going to appreciate that too, because then they can manage expectations on their side. Right. So that's how I would just do it. Is that cool? Sweet. All right. So post-closing. Yay, the deal's closed. All right. Add them to your past client campaign. Maybe this review is part of that campaign. You should have follow-up, right? Call them after a month. Call them, like there should be a 1-year follow-up sequence. What are you talking about, right? And then after that, you just want to make sure they're on your recurring kind of follow-up sequences and things. Is there anything else that we think we need to add stepwise besides just this little feedback right here? Cool. I'm going to hit send. Nate, it might not be perfect, man.
It's freaking done pretty damn straight. I've got my process down for sellers, simply because that's what I always dreamt of, having a bunch of sellers. And when it comes to a buyer, I'm looking at my checklist, and I'm flying by the seat of my butt. I have half of that maybe.
Well, because we don't think about it, right? Because buyers tend to be a very reactionary client for most real estate agents. We tend to be reactionary to buyers while we have to be in the lead for sellers. And I would argue we need to be in the lead for both. You guys are not doing your jobs as real estate brokers, in my opinion, if you are only reacting to what your client tells you. And that's what most buyer agents do. They wait for someone to call, right? And then whatever, and then they do something. So I think that having this checklist also allows us to be proactive. Oh, I know what's coming up. I know what I'm going to have to do. I know I can incorporate this into my follow-up. We can talk about the process. I know it has to be left over. And it is so much more important, in my opinion, to have it for sellers and buyers. So if you're only going to pick one checklist, sellers all day. Because you have to manage photography, you have to manage cleaning, you have to manage a walkthrough. Selling is a process to get a property ready for sale. We are getting paid for the work on the front end, and that is all organizational and quarterback stuff. Buyers, though, is kind of different. Archie, chill out. I can't wait to watch back this video in like a year. But anyway, sellers, we kind of force ourselves to, because it always happens to a new agent. Like, oh, I got a list. Oh, I forgot that. I forgot to order the cleaners. I forgot to schedule this pre-inspection. I forgot to do the photography. I forgot to get roof brokers out. Oh, I forgot a checklist would help, right? So I think we're more motivated in a checklist when you've had a bad experience with the seller. That doesn't mean that we can't do it with a buyer. And Nate, I would agree with you. Like, here you go for a checklist, right? So let's see what this did in Excel. I wasn't planning on it outputting to Excel, and that's fun. Ooh, cool. I'll show you what it did. One second, lady and gentlemen. Here we are. Here's our checklist. How do we feel about that?
I like that.
So
my mind just immediately goes to what you want to do with and automate it. And now you have a basic database. Poof, right?
Right. But like, how easy is this, right? Where if you have this spreadsheet, and I'll give it to y'all, you have this spreadsheet, and every single transaction you did or buyer you did, you just made a copy and paste, right? And then all you were doing is going through the checklist. Oh, I did that one. Oh, doing that one today, right? You just color code it. I don't know. Or maybe you take this and you put it in a go high and you create another checklist, right? But either way, I think this is a very basic checklist that we can all use. So that way, as we're going through our process with buyers, and we'll talk about sellers next week, now we at least know that if we run through our checklist, the odds of us missing something major goes down dramatically, right? We're trying to avoid risk here. And so this was the point of today, right? This is how you create these checklists. This is why these checklists are important. If you don't know how to do it or you don't already have one like Nate does, this is how you use ChatGPT or AI to help you create one. And then, by the way, this is something you could do for every single transaction. Maybe you get to the point where, Archie, I'm almost done, dude, I promise. Maybe you get to a point where, well, shoot, Noah, if you're working primarily with veterans, right? Do you think that you would make modifications to this spreadsheet to deal with a veteran buyer?
100%, yeah.
Okay. Nate, if you were only selling probate real estate and that was it, do you think that a probate listing is going to go slightly differently than someone who's already living there and is like a normal listing, if you will?
Oh, absolutely.
And how much easier is it to create that probate checklist once you have a basic checklist? Because then you know in these situations, this checklist fails. Oh, great. I'm going to make a different checklist because I know in probate, I need to get personal representative stuff done. I need to make sure that this process is being followed. I don't want to jump in until we're done. Cool. And now I know. Right. And then Nate, I know this is on your mind, so I'm just going to leave you at this. Leverage has been a big topic for you lately, right? Saving time. So how much easier is it to train an assistant or a virtual assistant or someone on your new team that you're going to be building when you actually have a checklist for them to follow?
Yeah. And that's what I think, it's one of the main reasons I left EXP for Blue Pebble, was simply, there was no direction. You were pretty much on your own unless you wanted to go to Cartoon Land and spend 5 days trying to figure out which cartoon door to go through to get basic information. And so having you here is freaking amazing.
Every day. Yes.
But also just the training that we get is amazing. I mean, just having this here, and my mind goes to what you just built, also to not just training people, but also automating it so that we can train others better. And automating it, I plan on taking that Excel that you're sending out and converting that to CSV, importing it directly into Go High Level, and creating tasks from it. And so
let's go, right? But I appreciate all that, guys, and I wasn't trying to pitch for compliments. I was only saying that
awesome.
What we want to do is we want to build, right? Why build something 1,000 times when you do it once and it's done, right? And so while it might not seem important while we're talking about one client at a time or one client every other month, I have full faith that all three of you are going to get to a point where we're dealing with more than one client at a time. You're dealing with 3 or 4 or 6 or 8 at a time. If you don't have this organized, you forget shit. You do, right? And 2 clients at a time will basically get you 12 closings a year, kind of ish. So we're not even talking about that busy at the end of the day, and you can still miss some of this stuff. So I appreciate all the feedback. We will do another one next week on sellers. I will upload this to the drive and send out the link via our chat in the Google. I will also get this video up and running. So if you guys want to reference it later, feel free. And I would just encourage you guys, now that we're getting these leads, and now that we're having this time, we're seeing the shift in trajectory of our business. Let's plan for that shift and automate some stuff. Let's systematize this stuff. So when shit hits the fan, we're not scrambling to try and figure it out. And that's really the moral of the story for today. Okay?
Sweet.
Thanks
Love
a lot.
you all.
Thank
you very much, guys.
Nailed it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. I'll put this in the chat in a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jared.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.